Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us once again. Today, I have the great pleasure of meeting with Amy Hodge with Canopy Mortgage. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to learn a little bit about what Canopy Mortgage has to offer, kind of what the outlook is on the next 6 to 12 months in the market, and a whole lot of other great information that if you are in the market to buy or sell, or I guess to finance or refinance, this should be great information for you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Canopy Mortgage. What makes you guys different? What makes you different? And why you guys are such a great fit for.
Sure. So I like to mention my 4 A's, and that's accessibility, affability, affordability, and advocacy. So accessibility, pretty self-explanatory. I want to make sure, since this business is time is of the essence, I want to make sure that my clients are able to access me, to get a hold of me at any time, right? Because real estate's not going to wait for your loan officer to come back on Monday morning. So that is what I pride myself in for my clients to be able to get in contact with me, even weekends, holidays, and evenings.
Well, I think we can attest to that as realtors as well, because if we can't get a hold of a lender on the weekend when we find that perfect house and we need that loan pre-qualification, so I do, that has been such an amazing part of our relationship, is that you are so responsive and yeah, so and can get that done, because it is so paramount to putting in a strong offer and kind of getting the deal done. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and affability, which means friendliness. I'm really going to be talking to you as if you're my friend in my living room, which ultimately is kind of what we hope for all of our clients, right? We hope to befriend them and kind of create those lifelong relationships. I'm going to advise my clients the same way I would advise all of my family members, right? Everyone's going to get the same treatment. And that's because I'm really looking out for my client's bottom line. That is what's important to me, not mine at all. So I'm definitely, and I advise my clients the same way I advise my family members.
I can definitely, once again, speak to that. I know, working with your group, that you have basically said straight up, this isn't a good fit for you guys, or a loan program that they were looking at, and just kind of the pros and cons, and really telling them, yeah, maybe I'm not getting the business on this transaction, but you create that trust and that lifelong relationship, which is so much more important.
Right, totally, yeah. Definitely. And when our clients are our friends, they're going to refer us their friends, and that's ultimately how we get business in this industry. Affordability is really important, right? Because there's going to be a lot of companies that want to charge you an origination fee, maybe 1%, maybe even 2% in some cases. We have a flat fee, processing fee, as far as lender fees go. Those can really, really add to your closing costs. When you're already spending so much, last thing you want to do is pay your lender more than you have to. So that's not going to happen here at Canopy Mortgage. Advocacy, that means that I'm really going to do all I can to support my client's best interest, from calling that listing agent as soon as the offer is submitted, to reinforce that pre-approval. But I also want to, tailor your loan scenario to fit your exact needs. We'll look at more than just your monthly mortgage payment. We'll look at your entire financial picture to figure out how you're going to be most comfortable paying your bills every month.
Yeah, which is so important, because I think a lot of times people get so caught up in like the excitement of buying a home that they don't kind of look, and you have that mortgage, the entire time that you're going to own that home generally. So yeah, making sure that you're in the right product, and that's going to fit your lifestyle and needs down the line, and not getting, just kind of stuck in something that doesn't work for you is so important.
Exactly. Yes.
Love that. Well, awesome. Well, very cool. So what can you tell us a little bit? I think a lot of people have a misconception that, a lender is a lender and they're all kind of created equal and there's no difference. But can you tell us a little bit the difference between a lender and a mortgage broker?
Sure, yes. So mortgage brokers are going to be kind of a middleman, kind of a go-between, not with one lender in particular, but usually with several. Okay. And with that, the disadvantage is that there's not a lot of control that I would have over the loan process if I was a broker. I like to, get my loans processed as soon as I possibly can, well before closing, and that way we're ready to go as soon as that date comes around. Mortgage brokers don't really have that flexibility. They are kind of at the whim of their account executive for each of these
Okay.
companies that they work with. Their underwriting turn times, their processing turn times. And I really just like to have that controlled. Another thing is that I chose Canopy Mortgage, which is, the only company that I work for. It's the only rates that I'm going to offer you. But I chose them because they are the lowest rates that I've seen. And in fact, I did business with Canopy Mortgage before I worked there a couple times. And so I wanted to work, where I felt comfortable selling my product. And I wanted to be proud of that. And I am. I certainly am. And so, my clients know that I am giving them the best deal for them and not not the lender who's going to compensate me the best. Because that's kind of what can happen, and not always. But brokers will sometimes, choose a lender that's going to compensate them more versus the one that's going to give their client the best deal.
Well, in a lot of cases, there's a lot of hands in the pot that have to collect, and that's why these fees are so heavy sometimes. Is everyone's got to collect their piece of it, in these bigger organizations.
Definitely, yes. And the broker fee is oftentimes passed on to the client, and so that's just something that is not even going to be a question with me at Canopy Mortgage.
Fantastic. So where do you see the big question of the day in everybody's mind? Where do you see the industry headed in the next 6 to 12 months?
Right. So it's no secret that certainly the industry has slowed down, right? Housing has slowed down. But I were talking earlier about how this is kind of what we needed. The past 2 years were really an anomaly.
It was not sustainable.
Not sustainable at all. And I know there were so many, buyers who are very frustrated and, very hard to get into a home. And this is, kind of a better opportunity for some of those people, to get into homes. And, people are afraid because the interest rates are higher now. But remember, this is historically low interest rates still. When you look at history, the past 100 years, the rates that we have now are not.
They're still great.
Yes, exactly. They're great. They're great. They're not artificially low, which is kind of what happened the last couple of years. And that's why we're kind of in this inflationary environment partly. The good news is that, the Federal Reserve has committed to combating inflation. And so they've made moves already this year, and they'll continue to make moves into next year, which is, increasing the federal funds rate. Which, some people are like, oh no, don't increase the federal funds rate. I wanted to buy a house. But ultimately, the federal funds rate is, impacting short-term lending, not mortgage interest rates. Mortgage interest rates are really driven by inflation. Way to combat inflation is to raise that federal funds rate. And so when inflation is reduced, so too, theoretically, our mortgage interest rates.
So that's awesome. Yeah. But you have to kind of look at the positive of it too, that you're no longer competing with 20 other buyers on a house and, giving up your inspection period and your appraisal contingency and, your firstborn child and all these other things that, buyers were having to sacrifice in order to get into a home. So, I think it is definitely, now that we're approaching a more balanced market, I think, it's a good idea to focus on the positives. And yes, the interest rates may be a little bit higher than they were, but still historically low. And still, if they come down, that refinancing is always an option as well.
Definitely. So. Yeah. Yep. And just to give you, a few numbers, we're predicting 8% inflation by the end of this year and 3% inflation by the end of 2023. So that's huge. And so there really is a good possibility, and it's being forecasted that mortgage interest rates will come down. And yes, do not hold off on buying because of interest rates. You can refinance and save a ton of money per month after that. So.
Well, and there's programs out there too where the seller can assist with a rate buy down or in different programs to make it feasible.
Absolutely, so. Yes, we do have a 3-2-1 buy down program, meaning that if you have a seller who, they have an incentive to get rid of their home quickly, they are able to offer a rate buy down. So the rate would be reduced between years 1 and 3. First year would be reduced by 3%, second year by 2%. third year by 1%. And there's more, there's different options too, right? If the seller didn't want to pay,
Right,
for,
all
yes,
3 years or that kind of
right.
thing.
Yeah,
Or
they could do like a 2-year buy down, and really that kind of gives the buyer breathing room to be able to afford their mortgage payments while we're waiting for the rates to go back down.
well, and then that kind of gives that time frame of what analysts and everybody's predicting that in 2 years that our rate should be settled
Exactly.
down. So
Yeah.
that's a great opportunity. So fantastic. So what loans do you offer? So we just talked about some of the special programs that you're offering to kind of that are catering to where our market is right now. But are there any special programs that you would like to highlight other than that one?
Sure, absolutely. So, of course, I'm doing the conventional FHA, my favorite VA, and then USDA, which is for our rural areas. That's another 0% down program. Our jumbo loans for our higher priced luxury homes certainly are available. But beyond that, there are some non-QM programs that I'm able to offer. So for investors, they have the option to purchase a home without even considering their income, just the income that the property stands to make.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then there's also, sometimes self-employed people, they'll want to claim, tax deductions, of course. But that kind of creates a problem sometimes with qualifying for a mortgage. But I have, programs where we can look at, your 1099s if you're paid a 1099, or we can even look at your bank statements to see the income that you've brought in for your business over a 6 to 12 month period.
So it's really not a one size fits all. There's really something kind of to fit every scenario.
Definitely, yes, definitely. And even for, somebody who might not have any income, but maybe they have a lot of assets, we have a program that we can qualify with that as well.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. And I think too, I always forget about the USDA loans as an option, and I think people would be surprised at how homes sometimes qualify as a USDA. So it's not just these properties out in the middle of nowhere all the time. So it's always a good
Yeah,
option to kind of look at.
definitely, yes. Certainly with, our cities being built out, there would be a USDA area that you might be surprised is eligible for USDA financing, which is zero down. So it's a great program for the right family or the right individual.
Well, fantastic. Well, we appreciate all of the information and insight. If you are looking to refinance or looking to purchase a home, we are a great team. But we would love to give you some information. Amy will have all of Amy's information available, so please reach out to her if you have any questions about the market. Just what's going on with things. I'm always happy to help. So please feel free to reach out at any time. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm Laura Jewett with True Realty, and thank you.
Thank you.